Hi, I'm Benjamin Mac Jackson, founder of the World War II Veterans History Project. I started this project in the summer of 2015 with the goal of providing knowledge and inspiration to my generation so they can better appreciate and understand what these heroes went through. My mission is to preserve the memories of the greatest generation. In this story, we travel back to a German POW camp with World War II veteran Edward Quigley. He shares his breathtaking story of survival when he was shot down over Germany, captured as a prisoner of war, and interned at Stalag I for 14 months. Quigley discusses his downtime in the camp while the war raged on around him, and even shares the details of a secret radio used by the prisoners. This is one interview you don't want to miss. Here's his story.
Edward Quigley, First Lieutenant, Air Force. I enlisted. I was inducted here April 8, 1942. As a co-pilot, we bombed a air base outside of Berlin. But we never got to the air base. Our formations were going into Germany. I think that was the first 1,000-plane raid, which was enormous, from all parts of England to all parts of Germany. But as we were flying along, the German fighters were paralleling us. Then they went out ahead and came back in head-on attack. So that was about it. That's when we got hit. That's when the surprise came. They were shooting at us. Unfortunately, we got hit. I didn't like was leaving that aircraft. The only way to get out of that B-24 is to bomb base, so I went back to the bomb base. And we're in a big Clyde, 2 engines that were knocked out, were on fire. I couldn't step out. So easiest, I couldn't just step out. The first step would have been a pitch. So I grabbed hold of the handle on the parachute, fell out, and it was the easiest thing in the world. When I hit the ground, it was a big swing. I still had the ring in my hand. After bailing out, it was about 12:30 and noon or so, so it was broad daylight, but because as soon as I no sooner hit the ground, and a couple of German soldiers came running up, and escorted me back to the local town jail. And then we were interviewed by, like a movie guy. He had a scar. He was a dueling scar across here, German officer, but he was a mean son of a bitch. And he was yelling at us. And we didn't still get any physical violence. And that was we were in a boxcar as they were riding from southern Germany up to right on the Baltic. From there, I spent a couple of days, and then they took all the prisoners, air prisoners that they had, and the officers they sent to Stalag 1. Rouse met them. So it was 6 a.m. the German guards would come in, so they went out and they had to count. We'd stand outside in good weather and bad weather. The commandant and a couple of the guards were very pleasant. He was from the old school. But, well, there was no romance, but there was no physical violence, as opposed to the Far East, where the Japanese were. One of the biggest blessings we had, every day we got 5 minutes of BBC. It was a secret radio, and then this gentleman that came to the various compounds, one compound at that time, and told us where the armies were. The Germans always had us 30 miles, 300 miles back, but the real front line, after Patton had crossed the Rhine, we knew exactly. We thought we would be home by that time, by Christmas, but it never worked out. The Germans held pretty much for that first part of 44. And the receiver came in parts, the Red Cross parcels. So we were tipped off. No, that was a big help to know where the hell the American lines were and British lines, as opposed to not knowing. So we knew exactly where the war was taking place. Every so often, when they came, they had it on it a carton of cheese and canned milk, a carton of cigarettes. Now here, there was no word about cigarettes being bad at that time. Today, warnings all over the place. Then, but we didn't smoke this. We traded the cigarettes to the German guards for Zahnpasta, which is toothpaste, and Vienna bread, which is like cake. So we made good use of it. The pieces of a receiver were in various boxes, and we ended up, when I say we, I didn't have any in it, but there was one man in our barracks. We had about 70 to 90 of us in a given barracks. There were about 10 or 12 per room. They were double-tiered bunks, wood bunks, with straw, fresh straw as a mattress. But after a while, that straw became like a rock. So, and then I think once during our 14 months, we got to change the straw. We were fortunate that there was no physical violence. So they lived up to, but by the same token, America had captured one hell of a lot of Germans in the North Africa campaign, and they sent those back to America. So there were German prisoners of war here the United States, brought over. And they had various jobs. They helped cook and things like that. But they didn't have it bad either. They had decent meals, the German prisoners of war that were brought back here. They served us a big bowl of barley, which we stuck to our ribs. And during the day, we eventually got baseballs and gloves and things like that from the Red Cross. And we played a lot of bridge. We dug a lot of tunnels, but the Germans, when we got close to the fence, the Germans came in and caved them in. So, but it was therapy in a sense. We were digging the tunnels, and then we put it in our coats and walk around the compound dropping the dirt. It was therapy. Nobody ever escaped that way. Russians are really, by the way, and they were Mongolians. They frightened you more than the Germans, at any rate. The night before, we knew the Russians, from our information, we knew the Russians were close, just outside of town. So the night before, all the German guards took off for the west toward the American lines. They were camarade. So by the morning, we were all alone there until the Russians came running in, or Mongolians, riding our jeeps. And the commander of that Russian group, he was kind of an ornery son of a gun. Until about a couple of days later, a major general from the Air Force Army came in, changed everything. So he outranked this Russian. The B-17 it was an airstrip outside of our Stalag. Well, just a single strip, but they landed, taxied, never cut their engines, and put 25 of us on each plane as we were taking off. They took off. We went to France, and later we went over. I went back to England, and outside of London. And by that time, my old base had left for Japan. In other words, the war was still going on in the Far East, but it didn't bother us any. Then they put us on it was called the Grace Line. It was a peacetime cruise ship that was painted all gray. And so it took all of us, not quite a few, I don't know the number, and we headed back for New York. We were coming from New York on a train that was built in Abraham Lincoln's time. I saw a Central Avenue bus. And I was on that. I had been on, since a child, I had been on that bus. There was always a troop commander. I said, I'm leaving. I see the bus. I'm 15 minutes from home. He said, you can't leave. You got to be kidding me. So I just took off, crossed the track, get on the bus, and 15 minutes later I was back home.
Mr. Quigley is 95 years old and currently resides in Mount Dora, Florida. To learn more about the World War II Veterans History Project, please visit our website at www.veteranshistoryproject.com. We look forward to seeing you again for more exciting stories from the greatest generation.